The ship shook hard, and Q grabbed the wall to stop himself from falling. Red lights flashed everywhere. The alarm screamed so loud that he could barely think. He looked at the small window and saw 3 enemy warships surrounding them. They were Shelari ships, big and dark, shaped like insects with sharp edges. "They hit the engine," shouted Duri from the pilot seat. His hands moved fast over the controls, but nothing worked. "We are dead in space." Q ran to the back of the ship where the engine room was. Smoke filled the air. He pulled open a panel and looked inside. The main power line was completely destroyed. There was no way to fix it in time. They had maybe 5 minutes before the Shelari soldiers came aboard. He ran back to the main area. There were 14 people on this small salvage ship. Engineers, medics, and workers. They were not soldiers. They had no real weapons. This was supposed to be a simple job. Go to the old battlefield, collect useful parts from destroyed ships, and come home. Nobody expected the Shelari to be waiting for them. Hana stood near the medical supplies, her face pale but calm. She was the team medic, and she was also Q's oldest friend. They grew up together on the same space station. When Q joined the engineering corps, Hana joined the medical corps. They always ended up on the same mission somehow. "Can we run?" she asked. "No," Q said. "Engine is gone. We cannot move." The ship shook again. This time it was not weapons fire. Something had attached to their hull. Q heard the terrible sound of metal cutting through metal. The Shelari were cutting their way inside. "Everyone stay calm," Q said, though his own heart was beating very fast. "Do not fight them. If we fight, they will kill us. If we surrender, we might live." The others looked at him with fear in their eyes. They all knew stories about the Shelari. They were tall creatures, almost like insects mixed with humans. They had hard shells on their bodies instead of skin. Their eyes were large and dark. They ruled over 12 star systems, and they had been at war with humans for almost 30 years. The cutting stopped. For a moment, everything was silent. Then the wall exploded inward, and Shelari soldiers poured into the ship. They were terrifying to look at. Each one stood over 6 feet tall. Their bodies were covered in dark green and brown shells. They carried weapons that hummed with energy. Their faces had no expressions that humans could read. "Do not move," one of them said in broken human language. "You are now property of the Dominion." Q raised his hands slowly. The others did the same. He watched as the soldiers moved through the ship, pushing the humans together into one group. One soldier grabbed Duri too roughly, and Duri cried out in pain. Q wanted to help, but he knew that any movement would mean death. They were taken off their ship and brought onto the Shelari vessel. The inside was strange and alien. The walls seemed to be alive, covered in something that looked like dried honey. The air smelled different, like old flowers and metal mixed together. The lights were dim and orange. The soldiers pushed them into a large holding area. There were already other humans there, maybe 20 or 30 of them. They all looked tired and scared. Some had wounds that had not been treated. Q found a corner and sat down. Hana sat next to him. "What will they do with us?" she whispered. "I do not know," Q admitted. "But we are alive. That means something." Hours passed. Maybe days. It was hard to tell time in this place. The Shelari brought them food and water, but it tasted strange. Some of the humans got sick from it. Hana did her best to help them with no medicine and no tools. Q watched and listened. He noticed things. The guards changed every few hours. The ship moved in a certain pattern, and there was a problem somewhere nearby. He could hear Shelari technicians arguing about something. Their language was difficult to understand, but Q had learned some of it during his training. They were talking about a broken system, something important that they could not fix. On the third day, soldiers came and took 5 humans away. They did not come back. On the fourth day, they took 3 more. Still no return. The fear in the holding area grew stronger. On the 5th day, something different happened. 2 Shelari technicians walked past the holding area, still arguing. They stopped near a panel on the wall and opened it. Inside was a mess of wires and circuits. One technician tried to fix it, but he only made things worse. Sparks flew out, and the lights in the hallway went dark for a moment. The technicians made angry sounds and walked away. Q stood up and walked to the energy barrier that kept them trapped. A guard looked at him with those dark, empty eyes. "I can fix that," Q said, pointing to the broken panel. The guard did not respond. "Your technicians cannot fix it." "I can. I am an engineer." Still, nothing. Q took a breath. "Let me show you. If I fail, you lose nothing. If I succeed, you gain a working system." The guard stared at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound into a device on its arm. More Shellari came. They talked in their clicking language. Finally, one of them lowered the barrier and grabbed Q's arm. They brought him to the broken panel. Tools were placed in his hands. 20 Shellari watched him, weapons ready. Q looked at the panel. The technology was alien, but machines were machines. Power flowed in certain ways. Connections had logic. He studied it for a minute. Then he started working. 3 minutes later, the lights came back on. The panel hummed with power. The system worked perfectly. The Shellari around him went silent. They looked at each other with what might have been surprise. One of them grabbed Q and pushed him forward, away from the holding area, away from the other humans. "Where are you taking me?" Q demanded. "To someone who will want to meet you," the guard said. They walked through long hallways, up strange elevators, past doors that opened like mouths. Finally, they reached a massive door, covered in gold and purple designs. The door opened slowly. Inside was the largest room Q had ever seen on a ship, and sitting on a throne made of something that looked like black glass was the most terrifying creature he had ever seen. She was tall, even sitting down. Her shell was dark, purple and gold, beautiful and deadly. Her eyes were like deep pools of black water. She wore armor on her chest that glowed with soft light, and she was looking directly at him. "This is the human who fixed the power relay?" she asked. Her voice was cold and smooth, like ice sliding over stone. "Yes, my queen," said the guard. The queen leaned forward. "Tell me, little human, what else can you fix?" Q stood before the queen and tried not to show his fear. The room was huge and cold. Strange lights floated in the air like small ghosts. Guards stood everywhere, their weapons pointed at him. But the most dangerous thing in the room was the creature on the throne, Queen Vera of the Shellari Dominion. He had heard stories about her. She had ruled for over 200 years. She had destroyed entire human fleets. She had never lost a war. And now she was looking at him like he was a small insect that had crawled into her home. "Answer me," she said. Her voice was not loud, but it filled the entire room. "What else can you fix?" Q swallowed hard. "Many things, my queen. I am a combat engineer. I fix ships, weapons, machines, computers. If it is broken, I can usually make it work again." Vera made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Humans are so confident. So small, yet so sure of yourselves. It is almost amusing." She stood up from her throne and walked toward him. Each step made a soft clicking sound on the floor. She was even taller than he thought. Almost 7 feet. Her armor covered her chest and shoulders, made of some material that seemed both metal and alive. It glowed with a soft purple light, but Q noticed something wrong. The light flickered. It was not steady, and when the queen moved, he saw her face tighten slightly, as if she was in pain. "Your technicians," Q said carefully. "They were trying to fix a power system. It seemed important to them." Vera stopped walking. She tilted her head to one side, studying him. "You are observant. That is unusual for a human. I am an engineer. I notice things that are broken." "Yes," Vera said slowly. "Broken things." She touched her chest armor gently. The light flickered again, and this time, Q saw it clearly. Something was very wrong with that armor. Vera returned to her throne and sat down. She was quiet for a long moment. The guards shifted nervously. Finally, she spoke again. "Leave us," she commanded. "All of you." The guards hesitated. One of them stepped forward. "My queen. He is a human. It is not safe to be alone with." I said, "Leave." Her voice was ice and fire at the same time. The guards bowed and hurried out of the room. The massive door closed behind them. Now it was just Q and the queen. "Come closer," Vera said. Q walked forward until he was only a few feet from the throne. Up close, he could see more details. Her shell had tiny cracks in it. Her eyes looked tired, and the armor on her chest was definitely damaged. Energy leaked from it in small sparks. "What do you see?" she asked. "Your armor is broken," Q said. "The energy flow is unstable. It is causing you pain." Vera's eyes narrowed. "How do you know it causes me pain?" "Because you moved differently when it sparked. Your face changed. You try to hide it, but it is there." For a long moment, Vera just stared at him. Then she spoke. And her voice was different now. Less cold. Almost tired. "This armor has been part of me for 180 years. It is not just metal. It is fused to my body, connected to my nerves, my blood, my very life. 3 months ago, during an assassination attempt, it was damaged. Since then, my own technicians have tried to repair it. They have all failed. Some made it worse." She paused. "If the armor fails completely, I will die. And there are many who want that. Enemies outside my empire. Enemies inside my own court. If they learn how weak I have become, they will strike. And when I fall, my empire will burn. And then your people will burn too." Kiyu understood now. This was not just about the queen. If she died, someone worse would take her place. Someone who might decide to end the war by ending all humans. "Why tell me this?" Q asked. "I am your enemy. Because you might be the only one who can help me." Vera leaned forward. "My technicians are afraid to try anything new. They follow old rules, old methods. But you humans think differently. You see problems in ways we do not. That is why you have survived against us for so long, even though we are stronger." She stood again and walked closer to him, so close that he could see his own reflection in her dark eyes. "I am offering you a deal, human. Fix my armor, and I will spare the lives of every human on this ship. You and your friends will live. I will even send you home when the war ends. And if I fail, then you all die. Slowly, painfully, as an example to others." Q's throat was dry. He looked at the armor on her chest. The technology was completely alien to him. He had never seen anything like it. The way it merged with her body, the strange energy flowing through it, this was far beyond anything humans had built. But he had no choice. Hana was in that holding area. Duri, and the others too. If he refused, they would all die anyway. "I need to look at it more closely," he said. "I cannot promise anything until I understand the problem." Vera nodded. She reached up and touched a hidden switch. The front of her armor opened slightly, revealing the damage inside. Q stepped closer and looked. It was a mess. Wires that were not wires, circuits that seemed grown instead of built, energy channels that moved like living veins. But among all that alien technology, Q saw something familiar. A pattern. The way energy flowed from one point to another was not so different from human machines. It was more complex, yes. More advanced. But the basic logic was the same, and he saw the problem. A connection was broken, and the energy was flowing the wrong way. It was like a river that had been blocked and was now flooding the wrong areas. The Shellari technicians had tried to force the energy back to its original path, but that was not the answer. The answer was to build a new path. "I can fix this," Q said. Vera's eyes widened slightly. "You are certain?" "No. But I can try. I will need tools. Time. And I will need you to trust me." "Trust?" Vera almost laughed. I do not trust anyone, human. Especially not you. But I have no other options. You will work under guard. If you try anything foolish, you will die before you can finish the thought. I understand. Vera closed her armor and stepped back. You will begin tomorrow. Tonight, you will be given a room, food, rest. You will need your strength. She turned and walked back to her throne. One more thing, human. What is your name? Q. Q. She repeated, as if tasting the word. Such a simple name for someone who holds my life in his hands. Go now. We will see what tomorrow brings. The guards returned and led Q away. His mind was racing. He had bought time. He had a chance to save his friends. But he also knew the truth. If he made one mistake, everyone would die. And somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice whispered another truth. The Queen was not just his enemy. She was also the only thing standing between humanity and something much worse. He could not afford to fail. The next morning, guards came to Q's room before he was fully awake. They gave him clean clothes and food that tasted less strange than before. Then they led him through the ship to a private chamber he had not seen before. The room was smaller than the throne room but still large by human standards. The walls were covered in soft fabric that seemed to absorb sound. In the center of the room was a raised platform with a special chair on it. The chair was built for Shellari bodies, with places for their shells and their different joints. Strange machines surrounded the platform, some making soft humming sounds. Queen Vera was already there, standing beside the chair. She was not wearing her royal robes today. Instead, she wore a simple dark garment that left her chest armor fully visible. In this light, Q could see the damage even more clearly. The metal was cracked in several places. The glow was weak and unsteady. 6 guards stood around the room, their weapons ready. Q felt their eyes on him with every step. You will work here, Vera said. These machines can help monitor my life signs. If something goes wrong, they will warn us. Or they would tell the guards when to kill him, Q thought. But he said nothing. A table near the platform held tools. Some were Shellari tools that Q did not recognize. Others were human tools, probably taken from captured ships. He picked them up one by one, testing their weight, checking if they worked. I need to understand the armor better before I begin, Q said. Can you explain how it works? How it connects to you? Vera was silent for a moment. Then she walked to the chair and sat down. The chair adjusted itself to hold her body. The armor is called a life shell, she explained. It was given to me when I became queen. It is made from the same material as our bodies, grown and shaped over many years. When it was placed on me, it fused with my nervous system. It protects me, makes me stronger, helps me live longer. Without it, I would have died of old age centuries ago. So, removing it would kill you? Yes. The fusion is complete. It is part of me now. Like your heart is part of you. She touched the damaged area gently. When the assassin's blade struck here, it did not just damage the armor, it damaged me. The energy that flows through the shell also flows through my body. When the flow is wrong, it is like poison in my blood. Q nodded slowly. This was more complicated than he had thought. He was not just fixing a machine. He was doing surgery on a living being. I will need to touch the armor, he said. I will need to open panels and work on the inside parts. Can you feel everything I do? Yes, Vera said simply. Every touch. Every movement. The armor sends all sensations to my brain. This made the job much harder. If he caused pain, she might react. If she reacted, the guards might think he was attacking her. One wrong move and he would be dead. I will be as gentle as I can, Q said. But some parts might hurt. You need to tell your guards not to kill me if you make a sound. Quote, Vera almost smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien face. Very well. Guards, no matter what happens, do not interfere unless I give a direct order. The human has my permission to proceed. The guards did not look happy, but they obeyed. Q approached the queen. He had never been this close to a Shellari before, except when they were trying to kill him. Up close, he could see that her shell was not just one solid piece. It was made of many small plates that fit together perfectly. The texture was smooth in some places, rough in others. She smelled like flowers and something else, something electric. He pushed those thoughts away. Focus. He needed to focus. He picked up a thin tool and gently touched the edge of the damaged area. Vera's body tensed, but she made no sound. Good. He could feel the shape of the damage now. The crack went deeper than he had thought. It reached all the way to the biological layer underneath. For the next hour, Q worked in silence. He mapped out the damage. He traced the energy pathways. He found where the flow was blocked and where it was leaking. The guards watched his every move. Vera watched him too, her dark eyes following his hands. Finally, he found what he was looking for. The main problem was a junction point where 3 energy channels met. The assassin's blade had hit exactly that spot. The junction was broken, and the Shellari technicians had tried to repair it by putting it back exactly as it was before. But that was impossible. The damage was too severe. Q had a different idea. I am going to try something, he said. I need to create a new path for the energy. Instead of going through the broken junction, it will go around it. Like building a new road when the old road is destroyed. My technicians said that was impossible, Vera said. The energy channels are fixed. They cannot be changed. They are wrong. The channels are not fixed. They grew naturally when the armor was made, right? That means they can grow again. I just need to guide them. He picked up a small device that generated a tiny amount of heat. Very carefully, he touched the shell near the broken junction. The heat would encourage the biological material to soften and reshape. Vera gasped. Her hand shot out and grabbed his wrist. The grip was incredibly strong. Q froze. That feels very strange, she said through tight lips. Like burning and freezing at the same time. I am sorry. I have to do this to reshape the channel. Should I stop? Vera was breathing hard. Her eyes were closed, but she did not let go of his wrist. She held it there, keeping his hand in place. No, she said. Continue. I can bear it. Q worked slowly. The biological material of the shell responded to the heat. It softened, moved, reshaped itself. He guided it carefully, creating a new channel that went around the damaged junction. It was delicate work. One mistake could cause permanent damage. He moved his tool to a different area, closer to where the armor connected to her body. This was the most sensitive part. One wrong move here could cause terrible pain, maybe even death. His tool touched a small node hidden under a plate. Vera made a soft sound, almost like a whisper. Her whole body shivered. Q immediately stopped. Did I hurt you? Vera opened her eyes. She looked at him, and for a moment, she did not look like a queen or an enemy. She looked almost fragile, careful, she whispered. Her voice was barely audible. That part is delicate. Something passed between them in that moment. Q was not sure what it was. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition. He was a human with his hands inside an alien queen's armor, holding her life in his fingers. She was a ruler who had killed thousands of his kind, now trusting him not to destroy her. It was strange. It was terrifying. It was something new. I will be careful, Q said softly. I promise. He continued working. The new energy channel took shape, guiding the flow away from the damaged area. The armor's glow grew steadier. The sparks stopped. Vera's breathing became easier. When he finally stepped back, 3 hours had passed. The work was not finished, but the first stage was complete. The armor was stable. The pain would be less now. Vera sat up slowly. She moved her shoulders, testing the armor. Her eyes widened. The pain is almost gone, she said. How is that possible? I only fixed part of it, Q said. There is more work to do. But the worst damage is contained now. The energy is flowing better. Vera looked at him for a long moment. Then she did something that shocked him. She bowed her head, just slightly. You have done what my own people could not, she said. I will not forget this. Kyu bowed his head in return. There is still more to do. We will need several more sessions to complete the repair. Then we will have several more sessions. Vera stood from the chair. She moved more smoothly now, with less pain. You have earned rest, Kyu. Guards, take him back to his room. Make sure he has everything he needs. As Kyu was led away, he looked back once. The queen was still standing there, her hand on her chest. Feeling the steady glow of her armor, something had changed today. He could feel it. He just hoped it was a change for the better. Days passed, and Kyu fell into a routine. Every morning, the guards came for him. Every morning, he walked to the queen's private chamber. Every morning, he worked on her armor while she sat perfectly still, trusting him more than she had ever trusted anyone. The repair was going well. The new energy channels were growing stronger. The damaged areas were healing. Vera's pain was almost gone now. She moved like she used to move. Strong and powerful. The fear that had been hiding in her eyes was fading. But Kyu noticed other things too. Strange things that worried him. On the fourth day, he saw General Sok for the first time. Sok was tall, even for a Shellari. His shell was dark red, almost black, covered in old battle scars. He commanded the Queen's armies and had won many wars. He was supposed to be loyal to Vera, but when Sok looked at the Queen, Kyu saw something in his eyes. It was not loyalty, it was hunger. That same day, Kyu noticed guards being changed. The guards who usually stood outside Vera's chamber were replaced by new ones. These new guards wore slightly different symbols on their armor. When Kyu asked about it, no one answered him. On the sixth day, Kyu was walking back to his room when he heard voices. He stopped behind a corner and listened. Two Shellari nobles were talking in low voices. She is weak, one said. The armor nearly killed her. If the human had not come, she would be dead by now. That is exactly why we must act soon, the other replied. Sok says the time is almost right. Once the human finishes the repair, we strike. The Queen will think she is safe. And that is when she will be most vulnerable. What about the human? Kill him with the others. He has served his purpose. The nobles walked away. Kyu stood frozen, his heart beating fast. A coup. They were planning to kill the Queen, and they were going to kill all the humans too. He had to warn someone. But who? If he told the wrong person, the conspirators would find out. They would kill him immediately. He needed to be smart about this. That night, Kyu could not sleep. He lay in his small bed and thought about what to do. The Queen was his enemy. She had captured his people. She had killed humans in the past. Maybe he should just let the coup happen. Let the Shellari destroy themselves. But then he remembered what Vera had told him. If she fell, General Sok would take power. And Sok wanted to end the war by ending all humans. Every human colony, every human ship, every human child. He would not stop until humanity was gone. Vera was terrible, but she was not a monster. She followed rules of war. She took prisoners instead of killing everyone. With her in power, there was hope for peace someday. With Sok in power, there was only death. Kyu made his decision. He had to warn the Queen, but first, he needed to warn his own people. Among the tools in his repair kit was a small communication device. He had hidden it during his first day of work, taking it piece by piece from broken equipment. At night, he slowly put the pieces together. It was very weak, only able to send short messages a small distance, but if there were any human-resistant ships nearby, they might hear him. He typed a message. Human engineer captured on Shellari throne carrier. Coup planned against Queen Vera. General Sok will take power. Plans genocide against humans. Need instructions. He sent the message and waited. 2 nights later, A response came. Message received. Commander Tay speaking. Your information matches our intelligence. Soak is worse enemy than Vera. Keep Queen alive by any means necessary. She is only chance for future peace. Do not reveal yourself to conspirators. More instructions to follow. Commander Tay. Q had heard that name before. Tay was a legend in the human resistance. He had fought the Shalari for 20 years, winning impossible victories with small forces. If Tay said to protect the Queen, then that was the right choice. The next morning, Q went to work as usual. But now, he watched everything more carefully. He noticed which guards were loyal to the Queen, and which ones were not. He noticed which nobles spoke to Soak and which ones avoided him. He built a map in his mind of friends and enemies. During the repair session, Vera noticed that something was different. You are distracted today, she said. Your hands are not as steady as before. Q looked at her. They were alone except for the guards, but he did not trust the guards anymore. He could not say anything here. I am tired, he lied. The work is difficult. Vera studied his face. Those dark eyes seemed to see everything. You are lying. Something is troubling you. Tell me what it is. Q hesitated. If he told her here, the wrong guards might hear. But if he did not tell her soon, the coup might happen before he could warn her. He made a choice. Tonight, he said in a voice so quiet that only she could hear. Come to my room tonight. Alone. There is something you need to know. Vera's eyes narrowed. For a moment, Q thought she would call the guards and have him killed. No one gave orders to the Queen. No one invited her anywhere, but instead, she simply nodded. Tonight, she agreed. Alone. That night, Q waited in his small room. Hours passed. He began to think she would not come. Then the door opened silently, and she was there. She looked different without her royal guards and her court around her. Smaller. Somehow. More like a person, and less like a symbol. This is dangerous, she said. If anyone sees me here, there will be questions. The questions will be much worse if you do not listen to me, Q said. He told her everything. The conversation he had heard, the guards being changed, the way Sock looked at her, the plan to strike after the repair was finished. Vera listened in silence. Her face did not change, but Q could see her hands slowly forming fists. When he finished, she spoke quietly. I suspected Soak was ambitious. I did not know it had gone this far. She looked at Q. Why tell me this? I am your enemy. If I die, you might be freed. No, Q said. If you die, Soak will kill all of us. He will kill all humans everywhere. You are terrible. But you are not as terrible as him. Vera laughed softly. It was a sad sound. What a compliment. I am not as terrible as the monster who wants to replace me. She shook her head. But you are right. Sock would burn the galaxy to prove his strength. I have always fought to win wars. He fights to destroy everything. She moved toward the door, then stopped. Thank you, Q. You did not have to warn me. You put yourself in danger to do so. We are both in danger now, Q said. What will you do? I will watch. I will wait. I will prepare. Her eyes met his. And I will finish your work tomorrow. The repair is almost complete. Yes? One more session, maybe two. Make it one. I think we do not have much time. She left as silently as she had come. Q sat alone in the dark, wondering if he had made the right choice. He had just saved the life of a queen who had killed thousands of his people. He hoped Commander Tay was right. He hoped this was the path to peace, and not just another path to war. Only time would tell. The attack came earlier than anyone expected. Q was sleeping when the first explosion shook the ship. He fell out of bed and hit the floor hard. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the walls. He ran to his door, but it was locked from outside. He was trapped. Through the small window, He could see chaos in the hallway. Shelari soldiers were fighting each other. Some wore the symbols of the Queen. Others wore the red marks of General Sok. The coup had begun. Q looked around his small room for anything he could use as a weapon. There was nothing. He was helpless, stuck in a box, while the ship tore itself apart around him. Then he remembered. His repair tools. They had not taken them away after the last session. The guards had grown careless, trusting him after so many days of work. He grabbed the heaviest tool he could find, a cutting device that could slice through metal. It was not a real weapon, but it was better than nothing. The door exploded inward. A Shelari soldier in red markings stormed in, weapon raised. Q did not think. He swung the cutting tool with all his strength. The blade caught the soldier in the arm, and the soldier screamed. The weapon fell. Q grabbed it and fired. He had never killed anyone before. The soldier fell, and Q stood over the body, shaking. There was no time for guilt. There was no time for fear. He had to move. He ran into the hallway, more fighting everywhere. He tried to remember the map of the ship in his head. The Queen's chamber was 3 levels up and across a long corridor. He had to get there. He had to help her. Why? A voice in his head asked. Why risk your life for her? But he knew why. If Vera died tonight, Sok would kill everyone Q cared about. Hana, Duri, all the humans on this ship and beyond. His own survival meant nothing if everyone he loved was dead. He ran. He fought. He killed 3 more soldiers who tried to stop him. The weapon in his hands grew hot from use. His body was covered in cuts and burns. But he kept moving. Finally, he reached the corridor leading to the Queen's chamber. It was a battlefield. The Queen's loyal guards had made a stand here, blocking the door. But they were losing. Too many enemies, not enough defenders. Q saw Vera through the chaos. She was fighting alongside her guards. But something was wrong. Her movements were slow, awkward. Her armor was sparking again. The damage had returned, or maybe new damage had been added. Someone had hit her hard. She was dying. Q pushed through the fight, firing at anyone in red. He reached Vera just as she fell to one knee. Blood, or something like blood, leaked from cracks in her shell. Q. She gasped. You should not be here. Go. Save yourself. I did not fix your armor just to watch you die, Q said. He pulled her up, supporting her weight on his shoulder. We need to get inside your chamber. I can help you there. There is no time. Then we make time. Together, they pushed toward the door. The Queen's remaining guards formed a wall around them, fighting desperately. The door opened, and they fell inside. Guards slammed the door shut behind them. Energy locks activated. For now, they were safe. But Vera was badly hurt. She collapsed onto the platform where she usually sat for repairs. Her armor was cracked in 3 new places. The energy flow was completely unstable. The conspirators had a weapon designed to damage life shells, Vera said weakly. Sok has been planning this for a long time. Q grabbed his tools from the table nearby. His hands were shaking, but he forced them to be steady. I can fix this. Just hold on. The damage is too severe. My technicians could not repair the original damage. This is much worse. Your technicians are not here. I am. Q opened the front of her armor and looked inside. It was bad. Very bad. But not impossible. He could see paths forward. Solutions that a Shelari would never think of. This will hurt. He warned her. Pain is nothing. Death is nothing. Sok winning is everything. She grabbed his arm, her grip weaker than before. If I die, promise me something. You will not die. Promise me. If I die, escape this ship. Find your people. Tell them what Sok plans. Maybe they can stop him. Maybe they cannot. But they deserve to know. Q looked into her eyes. I promise. But you will not die. Not tonight. Not while I can still work. He began the repair. This was nothing like the careful, slow work of the past days. This was emergency surgery in the middle of a war. He cut connections that should not be cut. He fused channels that should not be fused. He broke every rule he knew and made up new rules as he went. The door shook. The enemies were trying to break through. The guards prepared for a final stand. Faster, Vera whispered. They are coming. Almost there. Q found the main energy line. It was completely broken. He could not repair it, but he could replace it, using a piece of his own communication device. Human technology fused with alien biology. It should not work. It was impossible. He did it anyway. The armor flickered, went dark, then it blazed with light, brighter than Q had ever seen it. Energy poured through the new channel, stable and strong. Vera sat up. Her eyes were wide. She looked at her hands, then at her chest. The cracks were still there, but the energy was flowing perfectly. What did you do? She asked. Something impossible. Q stepped back. Now show them what a queen can do. The door exploded. Sock's soldiers poured into the room. They were ready for a weak, dying queen and a few desperate guards. They were not ready for Vera. She moved like lightning. Her armor amplified her strength 10 times over, maybe more. The first soldier who reached her did not even see the blow that killed him. She moved through them like a storm through leaves. Her guards joined her, fighting with new hope. Q watched in awe. This was what a Shellari queen could do at full power. This was why they had ruled 12 star systems for centuries. The battle lasted only minutes. When it was over, the room was full of bodies. Soak's soldiers were all dead. Vera stood in the center, breathing hard, her armor glowing steady and strong. She looked at Q. You saved my life. Again. I just fixed your armor. You did the rest. No. She walked toward him, stepping over the fallen enemies. You did much more than that. You gave me hope when I had none. You fought when you could have run. You are not like any human I have ever known. Outside, the sounds of battle were fading. Loyal forces were winning across the ship. Sock's coup was failing. Soak himself, Q said. Is he dead? Not yet. But he will be. Vera's eyes grew cold. He will pay for this betrayal. He will pay for every life lost tonight. She turned to her surviving guards. Find Soak. Bring him to me. Alive if possible. Dead if necessary. The guards bowed and ran to obey. Vera looked at Q again. Her expression softened slightly. You should rest. You have done enough for one night. I am fine. You are bleeding from 6 different wounds. Q looked down. She was right. He had not even noticed. The adrenaline had blocked the pain. Now it was starting to come back. Maybe I should sit down, he admitted. Vera laughed. It was a real laugh. Tired but genuine. Humans. So fragile. So stubborn. So impossibly brave. She called for medical assistance. Take care of this one. He is more valuable than the entire ship. As the medics led Q away, he looked back at the Queen one last time. She stood alone in the ruined chamber, surrounded by fallen enemies, her armor blazing like a purple star. She had won. They had both won, but the night was not over yet. Soak was still out there, somewhere, and Q knew that the general would not go down without one final fight. By morning, the battle was over. General Sock was found hiding in an escape pod, trying to flee like a coward. The Queen's soldiers dragged him back to the ship in chains. He would face judgment soon, but that could wait. There were more important things to do first. Q woke up in a medical room. His wounds had been treated by Shellari doctors who seemed confused by human biology but did their best. Bandages covered his arms and chest. His body ached everywhere. But he was alive. Hana was there when he opened his eyes. Q. She rushed to his side, tears in her eyes. I thought you were dead. We heard the fighting. We heard explosions. Nobody told us anything for hours. I am okay, Q said, though his voice was rough. Are the others safe? Duri and the rest? All safe. The Queen's soldiers protected us during the battle. They said it was on her direct order. Hana shook her head in disbelief. I do not understand. What is happening? Why would she protect us? Before Q could answer, the door opened. A Shelari official entered, followed by 2 guards. The human called Q. The Queen demands your presence in the Great Hall. You will come now. Q tried to stand, but his legs were weak. Hana helped him up. I am coming with him, she said firmly. The official looked at her with cold eyes. The Queen did not summon you. I do not care. He is my friend. I am coming. The official seemed ready to argue. But then he looked at Q. Perhaps he remembered how much the Queen valued this particular human. Very well. Both of you. Follow me. They walked through the ship. Q saw the damage from the battle everywhere. Walls were burned. Floors were cracked. Bodies were being carried away. It would take weeks to repair everything. The Great Hall was a massive chamber at the heart of the ship. Huge pillars reached up to a ceiling so high it disappeared in darkness. Hundreds of Shelari nobles filled the room. Standing in strict formation, guards lined every wall. At the far end, on a throne made of black crystal, sat Queen Vera. She looked magnificent. Her armor was fully repaired now, glowing with steady purple light. She wore royal robes of deep violet and gold. The crown on her head was shaped like a twisted flame. She looked strong, powerful, and completely in control. Every eye in the room turned to Q as he entered. A human in the Great Hall. A human walking toward the throne. Some of the nobles made sounds of disgust. Others just stared in cold silence. Q walked forward until he stood at the base of the throne platform. Hana stayed by his side. He did not kneel. He did not bow. He simply stood and waited. Vera rose from her throne. The hall went completely silent. Last night, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room, General Sok attempted to kill me and take control of the Dominion. He nearly succeeded. I was wounded. My armor was damaged. And my guards were overwhelmed. She paused, letting her words sink in. But I stand before you now, alive and strong, and that is because of this human. She pointed at Q. This engineer, this prisoner, this enemy. He repaired my armor when my own technicians could not. He warned me of the coup when no one else dared. He fought through a battlefield to reach me. And when I was dying on the floor of my own chamber, he performed a miracle and brought me back. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nobles looked shocked. Others looked angry. A few looked thoughtful. He could have let me die, Vera continued. Sok would have killed the human prisoners anyway. But this human did not know that for certain. He risked his life for an enemy. He showed courage and honor that many in this room cannot match. She looked directly at Q. I owe you a debt, human. And a queen always pays her debts. Name your reward. What do you want? This was the moment Q had been waiting for. He had thought about this all morning, planning his words carefully. He could ask for his own freedom. He could ask for riches, for safety, for power. But that was not why he had fought. I want 3 things, Q said. His voice was calm and clear. First, I want the release of all human prisoners on this ship. Every single one. They will be returned home safely. Whispers spread through the crowd. One noble stepped forward. My queen, you cannot release prisoners on the word of a silence, Vera said. The noble went pale and stepped back. Continue, Q. Second, I want a ceasefire. A formal agreement to stop the fighting between our people. Not forever, if that is too much. But long enough for both sides to talk. To try and find a better way. Now the whispers became louder. This was not just a personal request. This was politics. This was the future of the war. Third, Q said, and his voice grew softer. I want my friend Hana brought to me. She was a prisoner too. I want to see with my own eyes that she is safe. Vera looked at Hana, standing beside Q. She is already with you. Q looked at Hana. He had been so focused on the queen that he almost forgot. Hana smiled at him, tears in her eyes again. Then my third request is already granted, Q said. Only the first two remain. The hall exploded in argument. Nobles shouted at each other. Some demanded that Q be killed for his arrogance. Others said the queen should not negotiate with humans. Others, quieter, said that maybe peace was not the worst idea. Vera raised her hand. Silence fell instantly. You ask for much, human. The release of prisoners is simple enough. But a ceasefire? That requires negotiation. That requires trust. That requires something my people have never shown to yours. Then let it start here, Q said. Let it start with you and me. I trusted you not to kill me while I fixed your armor. You trusted me not to destroy you while I held your life in my hands. If we can trust each other, maybe our people can too. Vera was quiet for a long moment. Every being in the hall waited, barely breathing. Then she smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. But it was real. Granted, she said. All of it. The prisoners will be released. A ceasefire will be offered to the human coalition. And you, Q, will help make it happen. The hall erupted again, but this time Vera did not silence them. She stepped down from her throne and walked to Q. She stopped right in front of him, so close that he could see his reflection in her dark eyes. You fixed more than my armor, human, she said softly, so only he could hear. You reminded me what strength truly requires. It is not just power. It is not just victory. It is knowing when to stop fighting and start building. Q nodded. I hope we can build something good. So do I. Vera stepped back and addressed the hall again. The human Q is no longer a prisoner. From this day forward, he is my royal artificer, responsible for maintaining my armor and advising me on human technology. Any who harm him will answer to me personally. The nobles fell silent. This was beyond anything they had expected. A human, given a royal title. A human, standing at the queen's side, but no one dared to argue. Vera returned to her throne. Q remained standing in the center of the hall. Hana beside him. For the first time in weeks, he felt something he had almost forgotten: hope. The war was not over. The peace was not certain. But for the first time in 30 years, there was a chance. A real chance for something better. And it had all started with a broken piece of armor and a human who refused to give up. 3 months had passed since the night of the coup. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. The ceasefire between the Shell-Ari Dominion and the human coalition had held. Not perfectly, of course. There were still tensions, still arguments, still moments when everything threatened to fall apart, but the fighting had stopped. The dying had stopped. And that was something. Q stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic station, looking out at the stars. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of the peace conference. Human ambassadors and Shellari nobles were talking in the main hall, arguing about borders and trade and 100 other details that would take years to settle. It was slow, difficult work, but it was work worth doing. The door opened, and Hana walked in. She looked different these days. Less tired. Less afraid. She had returned home briefly after the prisoners were released. But she came back a month later. The medical teams on both sides needed people who could work together. And Hana had become one of the best bridges between human and Shellari medicine. Hiding again? She asked, joining him at the window. Not hiding, thinking. About what? Q smiled. About how strange life is. 3 months ago, I was a prisoner on an alien ship, expecting to die. Now I am helping to end a war. Hana nodded. I still do not fully understand it. Why did you help her? She was our enemy. She had killed so many of our people. She had, Q agreed. And she will have to answer for that someday. To history if not to us. But the choice was never really between helping her and hurting her. It was between two futures. One where Soak burned everything, and one where Vera let something new be built. I chose the future with more hope. And now? Now we see if hope was enough. The door opened again. This time, it was a Shelari guard. "The Queen wishes to speak with you, Royal Artificer." Privately, Q looked at Hana. She waved him away. "Go. I will make sure the ambassadors do not kill each other while you are gone." He followed the guard through the station's corridors to a small private room. Vera was there, standing by a window of her own. She was not wearing her full royal robes today. Just simple dark clothing. Her armor gleamed softly in the starlight. The guard left, and they were alone. "You called for me," Q said. "I did." Vera did not turn from the window. "I wanted to thank you." "Again. You have thanked me many times already, and I will thank you many more times." She finally turned to face him. "The negotiations are going well, better than I expected. Your people are difficult, but they are honest. That is rare. Your people are difficult too, but they are learning." Q joined her by the window. "I saw General Mal arguing with Ambassador Park earlier. Last month, they could barely be in the same room. Today, they were arguing about trade routes like old merchants." Vera made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Mal was one of Soak's supporters. You know, before the coup. He switched sides when he saw the way the battle was going. I do not trust him fully, but he is useful. Trust takes time. For everyone." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the stars. A human patrol ship passed by the station, followed by a Shelari escort. A year ago, those ships would have been shooting at each other. Now they flew side by side. "Your people confuse me," Vera said suddenly. "I have ruled for 200 years. I have fought wars against a dozen species. I have seen empires rise and fall. But I have never understood humans. What confuses you?" "Everything." She shook her head. "You are small. You are weak. Your lives are so short that by Shellery standards, you barely exist. Yet you fight like every moment matters. You build things that should be impossible. You refuse to give up even when all logic says you should." Q thought about this. "Maybe that is because our lives are short. We know we do not have forever. So we try to make every day count. We cannot wait for problems to solve themselves. We have to fix them now, today, while we still can." "But what about fear? When you came to repair my armor, you knew you might die. When you warned me of the coup, you knew you were risking everything. Where does the courage come from?" Q smiled. "I was terrified every moment. But being afraid does not mean you cannot act. It just means you have to choose what matters more than your fear. And what mattered more to you? My friends. My people. The chance for a better future." He paused. "And you. Eventually. Somewhere along the way, you stopped being just an enemy. You became a person. A complicated person who has done terrible things, but still a person who could do better things." Vera was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer than Q had ever heard it. "No one has ever spoken to me like you do. My nobles flatter me, or fear me. My enemies curse me, or run from me. But you just talk to me. Like I am real. You are real. That is why any of this is possible." Vera reached out and touched his arm gently. Her touch was strange, the hard surface of her shell warm against his skin. "I have lived for 2 centuries. Q. I have seen more than you can imagine, but in these 3 months, I have learned more than I learned in the 100 years before. All because a small, fragile human refused to let me die." "I am not that fragile," Q said. "Yes, you are. All humans are. That is what makes you remarkable." She pulled her hand back. "When you first fixed my armor, you touched something delicate. I told you to be careful. Do you remember?" "I remember. I have been thinking about that moment. You were careful. So careful. With everything. Not just the armor, but with me. With my people. With this whole fragile process of peace. She looked directly into his eyes. Thank you for being careful, Q. Thank you for not giving up on any of us. Q felt something warm in his chest. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Or something he did not have a word for yet. The work is not done, he said. The piece is not finished. There will be more problems, more crises, more moments when everything might fall apart. I know. Vera turned back to the window. But we will face them together. Your people and mine. That is new. That is something worth protecting. Outside, the stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere out there, human colonies were rebuilding. Shelari worlds were adjusting to a galaxy without war. Children on both sides were growing up in a time of peace, not knowing how rare and precious that peace was. Q and Vera stood together. Watching the universe they were slowly helping to change. They were not friends exactly. They might never be. But they were something, partners in a project bigger than either of them. I should return to the conference, Q said eventually. Ambassador Park will need help translating the technical sections. And I should speak with my nobles before they cause trouble. Vera walked toward the door, then stopped. She looked back at him one more time. Q. Whatever happens next, wherever this path leads, I am glad you were the one who found me in that throne room. I am glad you were the one who fixed my armor. So am I, Q said. Vera nodded once, then left. Q stayed by the window a moment longer, thinking about everything that had happened. A broken ship, a desperate offer, a queen in pain. A war that seemed endless. And now this. Peace. Hope. A future nobody had dared to imagine. He had started as a prisoner. A tool to be used and thrown away. He had become something else entirely. Not a hero. Not really. Just a person who saw a chance and took it. A person who fixed what was broken. No matter how impossible it seemed, the galaxy was vast and full of terrors. There would be more wars someday, more crises, more moments of darkness. But between the battles, there would also be this, people reaching across the divide, building bridges instead of weapons, choosing hope over hatred. It was not much, but it was a start, and sometimes, a start was all you needed. Q smiled to himself and walked back toward the conference hall. There was still work to do. There always would be. But that was okay. That was what humans did best.